Hi everyone, it's Natalie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm serving, I feel like, particularly teacher vibes, which I think suits the fact that this is going to be a little bit of a different video on this channel. So this video is going to be the first in a new video series I'm starting where I review Studio Ghibli movies, which are essentially now my new reason to live. 2021, I am alive and I sustain myself only on these movies. So I decided to start this video series just to do something a little bit different on this channel, and also because I sincerely and deeply love the movies I'm going to be featuring in this video series. So I just had to express that. I also want to preface this video by acknowledging that I know that the director and writer of most of the films I'm going to be featuring in this series is not perfect. I know Miyazaki has been accused, I don't know if properly prosecuted, but I know he has been accused of mistreating and abusing his employees. I know that he has fostered a very toxic workplace where individuals have literally stopped working in the animation industry because he worked them so hard. So I acknowledge that, I understand that, and I also understand that his actions don't come in a vacuum. There is a long history of abuse in the animation industry in Japan in particular, which it's not limited only to Japan, but I'm focusing it here on them because these movies come from Japan. So his actions don't come from a vacuum. They are condoned and essentially supported by an industry that is okay with individuals being abused as long as there is an end product that is of quality and that has been produced quickly. So I understand that that might mean that these movies are not quite as feel good for some people that might darken their experiences with these movies. So I didn't want to deny that, but I also want to say that I fully grasp that, but these movies still offer me something that is very, very meaningful. So I still love them a lot. So now that I have done that disclaimer, this particular video, as you already know from the title of this video, is on Ponyo. This is going to be a spoiler review because in order for me to fully talk about every single reason and every single detail of why I think this movie is so good, I need to talk spoilers. Like, I'm sorry, if you have not seen this movie, go watch it and then watch this video. I'm this kind of person that spoilers are not the end for me, especially with movies. Like, I can know the plot of a thing and I can still appreciate the story once I watch it for myself, because I feel like movies, especially in TV series, there's so much going on in the visuals that even if you know the plot, you will still be engaged by how the story is being visually told to you. So do with that what you will. Anyway, let me give a short summary of this movie. In it, we follow Sosuke, a 5-year-old boy who finds a goldfish on the shore of the beach by his house, and he decides to keep this fish. And he names her Ponyo. When Ponyo accidentally tastes Sosuke's blood, though, she starts gaining magical abilities that allow her to become human and influence the world around her. When her father discovers that she's missing, he does everything in his power to get her back. But Ponyo is no longer satisfied by the very small and simple life she lived in the ocean. So she basically provokes a tsunami-esque natural disaster in order to get back to Sosuke. But essentially this tsunami causes the whole town to go underwater, and soon enough life will not be able to be sustained if the seawater levels keep rising. Therefore, in order to return the natural balance of nature, Sosuke and Ponyo are put to the test. Sosuke has to prove that he can love Ponyo selflessly and no matter what shape she's in, as a fish or as a human, and Ponyo has to prove that she's okay letting go of her magical powers if it means that she can remain human. So okay, let's get to the good part here. Let's get to why I love this movie. So first of all, the setup of this film is perfection. We start with an ocean scene where there's an absence of dialogue, there's no characters talking, but we have this beautiful, charming music playing in the background. And on screen we see a myriad of fish in multiple different colors that are just so vibrant and beautiful. And it immediately captures your attention because you see this man living underwater and you're wondering, who is he? What is he doing here? Why does he matter in this story? And we see Ponyo, who is a fish at this point and is interacting with other fish that look like her in a way that seems almost like she's their older sister. And you're kind of like, why does this fish matter? What is she doing? And why is she telling these fish not to follow her as she goes on an adventure of her own? Where is she trying to go? Why does she care about going to the surface? And as we follow Ponyo, we begin to see what will be, in a lot of ways, the main conflict of the film, which is pollution. Ponyo gets captured in this net that is basically accumulating all the junk that humans have thrown into the ocean. And because of that, she gets stuck in a jar, and as she escapes is how she makes her way to the shore where Sosuke lives. So overall, this all builds perfectly the general premise, the general players of the story, the general conflict, and it's just done so beautifully in a matter of like 20 minutes that I am just in awe of it, honestly. I cannot put it any differently. It's just so well done. And the truth of the matter is that visually, this story is just so good. Every scene is animated with so much attention to detail. The colors are so vibrant and bright. How can I talk about this? The way water in particular is animated in this movie is particularly incredible. Every scene of water here looks different. It's distinct. And when we have shots of like these very aggressive tsunami-like waves, they look both terrifying and beautiful. Like, I want to touch that water, but I'm also terrified that it's going to kill me. It's just so visually stunning. It's just visually stunning. As someone who's literally terrified of tsunamis, the way this movie makes them seem both beautiful and awe-inspiring is just a testament to the quality of this film. And since I'm still kind of in the section on the setup of this film, I also have to talk about the little breadcrumbs that are left all over the movie for you to figure out what's going to come without it being spelled out for you. We have Sosuke's mother making a comment about how Ponyo thinks she's human. We have the scene where Ponyo's dad is in his underwater lair and he has this pit full of magical potion, and he's like, well, no living creature should get in here because then that would cause problems. And we also have a scene where an old woman makes a comment about tsunamis, and it's just, there's so many moments like that where the characters say something that essentially will tie together with what is to come without telling it to you explicitly and directly for you to know, like, yes, this is what's going to happen. You're kind of like, okay, that's interesting that they're saying that or doing that, and it's the perfect way to set up payoff. This movie has excellent payoff. Every single detail it gives you in some way relates to what you will see in the conclusion of the movie, and it is just so fucking good. So I already have, of course, 18 minutes of footage that is just me rambling about the first 20 minutes of this movie and making disclaimers. So I guess it's time for me to talk about the real sincere reason why I love this movie, which is the characters. Much like I love characters and I'm a very character-driven reader, that is also how I consume media. you have to give me interesting characters, and this movie definitely does that. First and foremost, I have to talk about Lisa, who is Sosuke's mom. I want this woman to be my wife. She's an icon. She's incredible. Truly, the woman does not fear death. One of my favorite things about Sosuke's mom is the way she drives. This woman is a reckless driver. This woman is not afraid to die in order to get to her destination. She literally, the scenes where we see her driving are the wildest shit I've ever seen, and it is perfect. It is perfect because you're watching and you're like, ma'am, aren't you scared you're going to kill yourself and your child? And she's like, no bitch, I'm in full control of this vehicle and I will get to my destination and everyone will be safe. Honestly, if it was the end of the world, I would want to be with her driving the getaway car. Because would I fear for my life? Yes. But would I survive? Yes. So how can I complain? How can I complain? Yeah, maybe I'll have a heart attack. Maybe I won't, and I will still make it to safety. So there's too much potential for winning. Anyway, her hectic driving aside, I love Lisa because of the way she treats Ponyo and Sosuke. She is so good with them, for the most part. The part where she's very good with them, in particular with her son Sosuke, is that she acknowledges and respects his emotions. Although she has moments where she tries to get him to think about like, hey, maybe Ponyo returning to the ocean wouldn't be so bad because she's a fish, you know? That's where fish belong. She also allows him to feel his emotions. There's a scene where Sosuke asks her, hey, should I leave this bucket out so that Ponyo knows that this is my house? And she's like, yeah, go ahead. I think that would be nice. So I think there's that perfect balance where she does try to reason with Sosuke and try to get him to see things beyond just the way a child does. But at the same time, she doesn't try to tell him that what he's feeling and his sadness over originally having lost Ponyo. She doesn't try to tell him that that is not valid and that he should get over it like that. So that's what I love about her. But at the same time, the woman is a mess. She leaves this 5-year-old child alone with Ponyo in her house. So, okay, let me give a little bit of a framing if you're watching this video and haven't watched the movie. So, there's this chaotic scene where Lisa leaves Sosuke alone with Ponyo because she wants to return to her job. She works at this elderly home and she wants to make sure that the elderly women there are taken care of, are safe, because at this point already the tsunami has happened and the water level keeps rising, so she wants to make sure that they're okay. And so of course she decides, I'm going to leave my 5-year-old son alone and I'm going to tell him, okay Sosuke, you're the man of the house now, take care of Ponyo. And I'm like, ma'am, this is a baby. What are you doing leaving these 2 little kids by themselves in this house and telling Sosuke, you're the man of the house now? And also saying like, you have to do this, Sosuke, because there's no more power in the town. So the people lost at sea can only see our house because we have a generator. So the house is essentially the beacon of this town. So you have to stay here. I'm like, ma'am, what are you doing? What are you doing? I love her. She's great. She's fucking great. But can you see what I'm getting at? Lisa has so much duality to her. She is complex and interesting. And another thing that I love about her, and I love about the way she was portrayed here, is that she is not the perfect wife. Sosuke's dad, Koichi, he is a sailor and he is a workaholic. This man spends way too much time out in the ocean, getting jobs, doing jobs, whatever the hell specifics there are, because I don't think they're fully addressed. I'm sure they're mentioned, but I don't know anything about fishing or being a sailor, so the details escape me rather quickly. But the point is that there's this whole scene where she has planned this dinner for his return because he's finally going to be back home, and he calls and it's like, yeah, so I'm not coming because I was offered this job, so I'm kind of taking it. And she gets mad. She's like pissed at him. She's like, oh, why is he doing this? And then there's this scene where at night, if Koichi's ship is within sight of the house, they will communicate with him with signals. They have like a beacon light thing. Again, I don't know words for these things. So they have that light and they communicate through light signals. And there's this great scene where Koichi is trying to apologize for not coming home, and she's just like aggressively sending him the signal of, in a nice way, saying, fuck off, I don't want you here, like just go away, go away, go away. And it's beautiful. It's perfection. I love it so fucking much. So that's why I had to go off about Lisa, because she's just incredible. I love that she's not this prim and proper wife. She is full of chaotic energy and I thrive on it. And as a side note, before I go off to talk about Fujimoto, who is Ponyo's dad, I love that we have elderly characters in this movie. One of my favorite things in movies, especially in animated movies, is having elderly characters. One of the reasons Up by Pixar is one of my favorite movies is because we have Mr. Fredricksen, an old man, as one of the central protagonists of the film. So in this one, the old women in it are not as central in the story, but I still love their inclusion. We have one grumpy old woman, Toki I think is her name, and we have other old women who are much more like the traditional charming, fun, like grandma vibe, and it's the perfect combination that just makes them very fun to watch on screen. And the fact that Sosuke's mom and Sosuke care so much about them and like genuinely respect them and love them and are invested in their safety just adds a lot to this movie that I really appreciate. Man, I'm losing my voice because I've been filming for half an hour about this movie. Cheers. So yeah, I love them, and I love that at the end of the movie we get a shot of them feeling their bodies being healthy again, and they're running, and there's this employee from the elderly home who's like, oh, let me get your wheelchairs, and they're like, nah man, we don't need that shit anymore, we're healed, we're doing good, it's all great. And I love it. I just love it. So let me talk about Fujimoto, Ponyo's dad. He is essentially our antagonist here, loosely our antagonist. For most of the movie, he's our antagonist because he's trying to keep Ponyo and Sosuke apart. But this makes sense because Fujimoto doesn't trust humans. Humans pollute the ocean. Humans put a bunch of junk in the ocean, and he deeply cares about the ocean. He has even constructed this plot where he actually genuinely does want to essentially bring an end to the human race and start the whole world again. He genuinely does want that, but he doesn't think that it's quite the time for it yet. So in a lot of ways, he is the villain here. But if we think about it, him wanting to get back Ponyo is him trying to protect Ponyo from who he thinks will harm her, will put her in danger, and will not take care of her properly. So it makes sense. But if we think about the fact that he was once human and is essentially now incredibly distrusting of humans, it just makes him a very interesting character. And part of the reason why I don't like fully calling him the antagonist here is because we have scenes that very intentionally try to humanize him. One of them is when he decides he has to call or summon, I don't know how to say it, but he basically has to get Ponyo's mom to help him with Ponyo because Ponyo is unbalancing nature with being magical and human at the same time. And there's this whole scene where he's so flustered and nervous knowing that he's going to see her, and it's the cutest thing ever. He's filled with this like nervous energy and excitement, and is very sweet. It is very sweet. I love it. And it perfectly contrasts with the energy that Ponyo's mom brings to the movie and to him. She is very, very chill. When she finally goes to see him, she's like, honey, calm down. We don't need to get so stressed out about this. Everything is fine. All we need to do is just test the kids and see what they decide, see what they do, and nature will balance out after that. It's great. It's great. Like, I wish I had more to say about Ponyo's mom, but I really don't, because she is kind of this elusive character. She is very powerful and incredibly beautiful and incredibly patient. And so she's just this calming force in the back of this film. So we don't know much about her, but she's still very compelling. I just can't talk about her in depth because of how limited the information we get about her is. Finally, let me talk about the main characters of this movie. I've left them for last because, of course, I adore them, and so they're the perfect note to end this video on. First, I'm going to talk about Sosuke, because Sosuke is my precious baby. He is the child I will never have but wish I did. He is just so sweet and just beautiful. I love Sosuke so much. And one of my favorite things about him is that he acts like a 5-year-old boy. They don't try to age him up like ridiculously. He is reckless. When he first gets Ponyo, he a few times takes a while to get her into water, get her into the bucket of water. For crying out loud, the boy uses a rock to smash the jar Ponyo is stuck in the beginning of the movie. The child is chaotic. The child is reckless. And he also cries readily when he is separated from Ponyo, and later on in the movie when he's trying to find his mom. So he has these moments where he's very much acting his age, very much acting like a scared little boy, and it is just so good. I love it. I love Sosuke. And of course, one of the reasons I love Sosuke so much is because of how sincerely and deeply he loves people. With his dad, he has this childlike adoration of him. He's very supportive and encouraging. When his mom is angry with his dad, he sends his dad like basically saying, I believe in you, you're gonna work all of this out with mom. And then with Ponyo, he treats her with so much love. He doesn't think she's weird because she's super powerful. He doesn't try to take advantage of her powers. Like, he will ask her for things, but he will not overuse that. He simply is like, can you do that? And if she can't, he's okay with that. There's at the end the scene where he really needs a candle to be enlarged, and Ponyo is very sleepy, very tired, and can't seem to enlarge this candle. And he doesn't get mad with her. He doesn't say anything. He tries to wake her up to keep her awake, but he doesn't do anything apart from that. And when it's clear that Ponyo is not going to wake up and be able to enlarge this candle, he just powers through. He just manages and finds a way to do things on his own, which is just so precious. I just love him. I love him a lot. And you keep seeing my phone in flashes here because I have my notes here because I scripted this video, and I know it's still going to be an incoherent mess even though I scripted it, but I'm not that familiar with scripting videos, so it's probably part of why this video is still going to be chaotic even though I had a plan for what to say. Okay, so yeah, one of my favorite quotes in this movie is of course the iconic quote of this movie, which is, I love all the Ponyos. It's a big responsibility, but I really love her. Like, this little boy is more romantic than grown-ass men. He is sweeter and kinder and more genuine than basically a lot of the men in the romance books I read. Like, he is iconic. He's great. He's amazing. He's a sweetheart. I would give my life for him. Now, of course, I had to leave Ponyo for last because she's the titular character here, and she really fills this movie with so much energy. Ponyo is such a vibrant character. She's really full of life and joy. She is so curious and so interested in the world and so deeply committed to caring for the people around her. She sincerely wants to help Sosuke and his mom. There's this scene later on where she helps this mom and husband with their baby, and she's just so full of love and care, and it's so beautiful. Like, the strength of her emotions is just truly something that I love so much. Like, this little girl literally almost causes the end of the world as we know it because she wants to be with Sosuke again, because she met this little boy that was so nice that she needed desperately to see him again. And you just see that throughout the whole movie, how intense her love is. And I love that. I love having this powerful little girl who loves without restraint, who cares for the people around her, who is not afraid to go after what she wants. It's just so good. So good. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm slouching through most of this video because I'm just having so many emotions that my body is just overwhelmed by them. So yeah, that's all I have to say about this movie. All in all, I love it a hell of a lot. It's a very, very good movie with very strong characters. I probably should have mentioned that it's kind of like a retelling of The Little Mermaid, but I think that's pretty evident, and if you've watched the movie, you already know this, so it's pointless for me to mention, but I think you can see that clearly in Ponyo's character in particular, but I think she's done so much better in this movie. I think she has so much more character here. And I would just highly recommend watching this movie. And if you've already seen it, I hope this video helps you see just how much there is to it, how much there is to appreciate about this film. So yeah, the next installment in this series is going to be me talking about Howl's Moving Castle, and I'm sincerely terrified I'm going to make an hour-length video all about Howl's Moving Castle because it's a longer film, for one, and two, a lot of emotions there, because I started this series with Ponyo, even though Ponyo is my second favorite of the Ghibli films I've seen. Howl's Moving Castle is my number one, but I wanted to start soft. I wanted to start with something that would just kick off this series more nicely than me very passionately analyzing and breaking down Howl's Moving Castle. We'll save that for video 2. So yeah, that's it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you would like to follow me on any of my social media, I will have the links to that down below in the description. But for now, see you next time.